Everyone, thank you for joining our webinar, Managing Stress as a Parent of a Child with Special Needs. The webinar provides coping strategies for the chronic PTSD that parents and caregivers experience as a result of frequent medical tests and hospitalizations, behavior issues, and family conflicts associated with raising a child with special needs. The webinar will be recorded in case you missed any part of it. You can go to shieldhealthcare.com/webinars after this live recording to see it. You'll also find a copy of the slides. The webinar will be in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please type it into the question box in the control panel on your screen. There will be a question and answer session at the end. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Liz Macias as our presenter today. Dr. Liz is a licensed clinical psychologist and certified school psychologist in Parsippany, New Jersey. She and her colleagues at Psychological and Educational Consulting specialize in working with children, adolescents, their parents, families, and teachers with ADHD, anxiety, autism, learning disabilities, and behavioral struggles. Dr. Liz and her colleagues help parents to become aligned in their parenting style, create boundaries and consistency in the home environment, and help support parents in seeking the accommodations and programs their children need in order to be successful in school. At this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Dr. Liz.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here today and to discuss a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. As Amy mentioned, I am a licensed clinical psychologist and school psychologist in private practice, but I'm also a mom of 3. And one of my children does have special needs, and so I live this journey alongside a lot of the parents that I work with. In my practice, because of my experience as a school psychologist, it became very clear to me what specialty I wanted to pursue in private practice, and that was special needs. And that when I have parents come in to see me for their child with special needs, they are my first points of contact. And so we'll discuss things like programs and schools and to test or not to test and related services and so forth. But I never lose sight of the very important thing, and that I'm talking to a parent or parents who over time are dealing with their own emotional experience of having a child with special needs and what that means for them. And just the chronic need for care. And it sounds like a negative way of saying that, but it is constant. It is constant care and constant need to be flexible and so forth. So I do have great concern for the parents, and so today's presentation is really to discuss you as the parent and not just your child, who's very important, but you are also important. You know, when I became a parent, it became very, very quickly obvious to me that this was going to be one of the hardest jobs of my life. Despite how difficult I thought graduate school was, this is a very, very tough job. And it has a lot of ugly parts to it that I don't think anyone really voices, especially not when you're pregnant. It's not in the baby books. It's not a topic of conversation of parenting is hard. It invokes a lot of anxiety and a lot of, did I do the right thing? And will I do the right thing tomorrow? It is one of the most relentless and yet one of the most gratifying jobs we will ever have in our life. But I also want to acknowledge that parenting a child with special needs is especially difficult. And so there are definitely moments where you're going to feel like you want to run away, and I want to tell you that's okay, and you're not alone. Today, as we go through all this presentation, I do want to discuss the different topics that we can address. And that is, I want to define what a special needs is, because I want to put us all on the same page with the true definition of special needs. I want to talk a little bit about your emotional journey as a parent. I want to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder and how it relates to parents who are raising a child with special needs. And although that is a term that we usually associate with someone in the military, it is relevant here. I want to talk about ways of coping, and also when it's time to seek professional help, and that it's okay to seek professional help, because this is not a process and a journey that you can always do on your own. So let's start by defining what is a special need. I think the traditional way I know thought a special need was defined was the last bullet on the page here, which is a medical illness. Epilepsy, Down syndrome, diabetes, coronary heart defect, whatever that medical diagnosis. And sometimes you can see it, and I think for us as parents is when you can see the disability, it's a little bit easier for us because then we don't have to discuss it all the time and explain it to people. But other ways of defining a special need is a learning difficulty, such as a learning disability, such as dyslexia, or a math disability, or reading comprehension disability, and so forth. Behavioral struggle. Usually, as I always say, children don't wake up in the morning and decide they want to be difficult behaviorally. There's some system in their body that is dysregulated, and so they struggle. Whether they struggle to tell us how they feel or to integrate sensations in their body. Their behaviors are a form of communication for us, but it is nonetheless a struggle. A sensory struggle, such as through a sensory processing disorder. I know there's a lot of debate as to whether a sensory processing disorder is true, whether it's to be acknowledged by school systems. More and more school systems are acknowledging them through occupational therapists in the school, but it's still an area of debate and conflict. Communication struggles or disabilities, emotional disabilities such as anxiety, bipolar, ADHD, and so forth. The upper bullets are more of the invisible disabilities where we can't really see them, but we know they exist. So this is where sometimes, as a parent, you may question yourself, does my child really have this disability? Am I just making a big deal out of nothing? Or is it someone else making a big deal out of nothing and my child is really fine? But these are areas of special need, and of course each one of these can come in a spectrum where it ranges in the areas of weakness. And every child's profile is unique. So there is no cookie cutter answer to how to do things when you have a specific diagnosis. And that's part of the frustrations in the field, but it's also, for me, that challenge is very exciting because to me it's getting to know who your child is and what they need, and then figuring out how to implement it and helping you to figure out how to implement it at home when we're not together. So when we first become parents, we have a lot of expectations and dreams and things that we feel like we hope and dream for our children, ways we think our marriage will be, ways that our children will fit into that marriage. But when you have a child with special needs, that's not necessarily the case. And one way I feel like, I can really give you some perspective of a lot of other people's experience, and that it's okay, is this piece that's called Welcome to Holland by Emily Pearl Kingsley. I want to read it to you right now. I am often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability, to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and make your wonderful plans. The Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say? What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life, I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The important thing is they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy, full of pestilent, famine, and disease place. It's just a different place. So you must go and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you would have never met. It's just a different place. It's a slower pace than Italy, less flashy than Italy. But after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath, you look around and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is coming and going from Italy. And they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they just had. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever, ever go away because of the loss of that dream is a very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Holland. So this really encapsulates for me that emotional experience of what it's like to make the realization that you have a child with special needs, a child who now is taking you away from Italy and over to Holland. And there's a lot of emotions that you will experience as you go through this process, and it's okay. So I want to discuss a little bit about that journey, what that may look like for you if you have already gone through it, or if you're going through it, or something triggers you to go back to an earlier phase. So these phases are very fluid. So we start off feeling guilty. What did I do? What did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong during the pregnancy? Was my child exposed to something in utero that I was not aware of? And so we play the blame game. Once we have an understanding of what's going on, we try all kinds of things. We try different therapies, and we try different ways of interacting with our child and helping the world to understand our child. But there are definitely times where you're going to feel very ineffective. You're going to feel disempowered or even scared. Over time, you will gain more confidence as you do try things and they do work. And you will be able to consult with other parents and professionals, and you'll find something that works, and you'll reach your new norm. And it will change again and again. And so you find that acceptance, and you wonder why you couldn't have been there sooner. But one thing I always tell everyone is respect your personal timing. Over here I have a link to a blog that I prepared for special needs, which basically talks about the emotional journey of a parent with a special needs child. If you have a chance, you can read that at a later time. But again, it just explains that we do go through an emotional journey. We do grieve the dream that we thought we were going to have as a parent with our children. But like we read in the passage, we didn't go to Italy. We're going to go to Holland, and we're going to have fun. It's going to be great. It's going to have its hard moments. But we are still going to Holland, and Holland ain't that bad. In fact, Holland sometimes is better. The next thing I want to discuss is parenting trauma. And can parenting trauma lead to post-traumatic stress disorder? Well, the answer to that is yes. And you think, what kind of trauma? What do you mean by trauma? I didn't physically get hurt. My well-being wasn't jeopardized at all. But what I can tell you is that it comes from the experience of being taken back again and again, receiving a shocking diagnosis, having an aggressive child who, whether it's a child who is on the autistic spectrum or medically and just gets very aggressive in their frustration with their body or with their interactions with the world and other people. Trying to find the right school, or having your child terminated from a preschool or a private school and thinking, where do I go from here? Or sitting on the edge of your seat and anticipating and just sitting there with so much anxiety of what will happen today at school with my child. Will they call me? Will they tell me that my child is not well, or the school is no longer a good environment? I can't handle my child. And just to let you know, there is no right or perfect school. If you find one, please email me, tell me about it. But there is no perfect school. We find the school that's right for the child. And because your child's needs are always changing, that rightness of the school does change over the time, whether it's for better or for worse, or it stays consistent. Oftentimes also we find that two parents are not always in agreement about the diagnosis or the therapy or the therapies or how to handle. a child with special needs. And there's just different philosophies or ways of viewing the situation, or an inability to really accept it and being upset or angry. Sometimes it also means that we have to change our family dynamics, and one person then stays home and leaves their job, and one person becomes the primary caregiver, and that can go in either direction. I've seen both, and it really creates a lot of stress in that arena as well. Frequent hospitalizations are very scary, having to go to the emergency room, ride the ambulance, or go to a psychiatric ER, and the hospital stays, the IVs, the drawing of the blood, possible surgeries. All of these can also be very stressful for you as a parent, and suppress your immune system and lower your mood, and just lead to that experience of chronic stress. And trying to find that right physician or the right therapist is also, I'm sure you've heard there's, the doctor to go to, but they have a long wait list, or we should go to this person, don't tell anyone else, so that, they don't end up having a wait list and I can't go anymore. But all of these are sources of stress and distress that are legitimate. So, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, I do feel this way, I didn't realize that this was okay to feel this way. A lot of times parents will feel ashamed of their feelings, like they should be grateful that they have a child and their child is well, and that, for all the other reasons that we give ourselves. But please, I hope this validates you and helps you to see that your experiences are typical, as much as I hate that word, or normal, and you are not alone in feeling this way. This is how a lot of parents feel. So, let's answer that question. Can parenting trauma lead to PTSD? Yes. So what does that look like? It looks like re-experiencing when you got the diagnosis, a specific form of aggressiveness, a hospital stay, whatever it is, you're re-experiencing something that is very unpleasant for you. It's very normal to feel hopeless and helpless because you don't know what's going on next, what's going to happen next, anticipating what's going to happen next, or just trying to figure out what that next step is going to be. Being hypervigilant and anticipating your child's triggers or what might happen, when the other shoe is going to drop if things are going well. Some parents find themselves avoiding either certain situations that are traumatizing or avoiding social interactions even. Things that were once pleasant and enjoyable are being avoided. Just having constant feelings of anxiety, heart racing, stomach hurts, sleeplessness, poor sleep or nightmares, and a poor ability to focus. And it can impact just our daily life tasks, but it can also impact, if you are working, your ability to stay focused to your job and perform your job well. So, to summarize, parenting trauma can lead to PTSD. It does lead to chronic stress. There's the constant anticipation of triggers for your child, but then those situations are potentially triggering to you as the parent. You are grieving the child that you and family you thought you would have. You feel alone and lonely. You're not. It's okay to feel like that in the moment, but no, you're not alone. There are many parents out there. It's just a matter of finding each other and finding comfort in each other. There's a lot of feeling shamed that you did something to contribute to the special need, or if I had just done things differently. But I know you're feeling ashamed, and I give you permission to let it go because you didn't do anything wrong. And not just feeling like you're not able to let go and enjoy life. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is coping. So when you are experiencing those moments of high anxiety, flashbacks, tears, sleeplessness, instead of trying to hide them or hide from them or avoid them, one thing I want you to do is to walk away from a situation, and it may have nothing to do, just might be a thought or a smell that came to you and triggered you. I want you to stop, walk away from the situation that you're in, and acknowledge your feelings. Try to identify, what is it that upset me? Was it a scent, a sight, a sound? Leave that situation, take a break. Go make yourself a cup of tea. Engage in some deep breathing, because your brain and body are thinking when the anxiety comes up, or you have a thought, or something triggers you, your body reacts as if you're in that situation. And so you're having as strong of an emotional reaction and a physiological reaction as if you were there way back when, or last week, or whenever. And so we need to let your body know and your brain know, we're okay. We had an upsetting thought and we're going to get through this. Taking those deep breaths oxygenates all your cells, and it's giving the signal back to the brain, there is no direct danger right here, right now. Because your body begins to pump a lot of cortisol. And we actually, by taking a walk and taking those deep breaths or stretching, gives your body a chance to pump those endorphins, which are our body's natural painkillers and mood stabilizers. So with that said, you will feel better by just engaging in something else and giving your body the signal it's okay. If you need to, write down these thoughts, whether it's through an app on your phone, an old school journal, getting a notebook, or typing it in whatever document that you like, so that you have. One thing I really enjoy about journaling is being able to look back. So over time, being able to look back, because as you have your moments of improved coping and strengthening yourself, you will see how your thoughts have changed. And that is very comforting in and of itself. It also takes all these amorphous thoughts out of our head, where they're swirling and coming back and triggering you again and again. So just put them down on paper makes them tangible. And by making them tangible, they're also not so scary. As you read your thoughts, you realize, oh wow, the ceiling didn't fall on my head. And so using those opportunities to really just calm down, using a meditation app for relaxation. I personally like guided ones. I have a very hard time guiding myself. My swirl of thoughts is always so quick, and I have a hard time stopping it. When I hear someone else's voice with some positive words, I do much better, and I can more easily take it all in, and it helps me to feel more grounded. So that's another option you have. There's so many different meditation apps. Just use the one that you like. Change it up every once in a while so it's exciting, or use the ones that you find most comforting. So the next topic I'd like to talk about is finding and balancing family life. As a parent, and as parents of a child with special needs, or multiple children with special needs, we spend a lot of time and energy caring for our child or children. So, that changes family dynamics when you do have more than one child. You have other siblings in the house, or a spouse if one person is the primary caregiver. And so one thing I really encourage is to spend individual time with each of your children and to make that time on a regular basis. It's also very important to schedule date nights. And I know that sounds very difficult for any parent, but it's very important for you to reconnect with your spouse on a regular basis. Respite care. Take that date night and use your respite care. If you haven't applied for DDD, do so, which is a Division of Developmental Disabilities. If a relative is saying, I can babysit for you, take them up on that offer. If a friend is saying it, take them up on that offer. In terms of finding a special needs babysitter, they are for hire. I would say lookatcare.com or sittercity.com, where they have that option for you as a filter. The other thing is, don't worry about a person coming in with maybe not a lot of experience. If that person, that young woman or woman, is eager to learn, whether they're in the field, they want to go into the field of special education, or they want to work with children, keep in mind you're also giving them an amazing experience. To be able to sit with a child who is not neurotypical perhaps, and may have some special needs, and it could be ranging from very mild to more severe, needing to administer medication at a certain time, or whatever the case may be. So mold them. Take them in, mold them. As long as they're willing, you're going to pay them. If they can't handle it, they're going to let you know. But don't be afraid of that person who you may not know coming in and taking care of your child. I know that was a big one for me for a long time. And what I've learned that I've had to do because I can't be there all the time as much as I feel like I'm Superwoman and I can. I'm not a Superwoman and I can't. And I say that to all the moms and dads that I work with, that you are not either, that is not the expectation, and you can't maintain that. So bring in other people. It's healthy for your child to meet new people, and you'll do it obviously in a way that's comfortable for your child, whether they come in for, trial periods and you teach them and, how to help your child to be a part of that process of getting them to be able to be in someone else's care other than your own. It can't be just you all the time. It's not realistic. Another thing is just paying attention to the emotional needs of your other children, whether they need to be in therapy. That special needs sibling is a very special person as well, and they sometimes have a lot of responsibility on them, and they have their own struggles of being the child who is well in the house, and we don't do this on purpose. We don't do it with any bad intention, but sometimes the squeaky wheel gets more of the oil and the non-squeaky wheel does not. So sometimes you have the other siblings becoming the squeaky wheel, or they're not, and they're withdrawing or isolating or staying silent, and so it's our job to really go and check in and say, how are things? What's going on? So some things to do with your family in an effort to maintain more of that normalcy, I'll say. Again, I hate that word, but I'll use it here. Celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and other important milestones of not just your child with special need, but all of you. Celebrate your daily triumphs. Who scored a first goal? We're going to make cupcakes. Who did well on their math test? Who got, made the school play or got the solo in the, for the band concert. Whatever it is, make sure you acknowledge all of that for everybody in your home, including yourself and including your spouse. We do need to bring up all the good things that do happen in our families, and it's very easy when you're thinking about what isn't going well to forget about that. One thing I encourage a lot of families to do is to set up family meetings. Find a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, whatever works for your schedule. To sit down and talk. What's working? What's not working? What do you want to, where are we going on our next family vacation? What do you guys, I'm noticing we're getting bored with these dinner choices. What do you want to do instead? And turning it into your reconnecting with your family and remaking a family unit. I like to encourage pizza nights. After you have your meeting, everyone makes pizza together. Get the dough, get the toppings, everyone goes to town. And then afterwards, you play games, you watch a movie, and it's just a very pleasant, positive time where everybody is heard, everybody is validated, and it's not just about your child with special needs, because it can become, in my house, I always call it, my child's show. It's not my daughter's show, but it sometimes does become the focus of what are we going to do to help her through this upcoming transition. And sadly, as parents, we only have so much energy. One thing I don't encourage parents to do is to not put too much responsibility on the siblings. It causes resentment and exhaustion on their end too, and so we want to avoid, putting your child in charge so that you can, and they're missing something of importance to them socially. Schedule time several times per week to speak with your spouse. I'm not talking about hours upon hours. I'm talking about 10, 15 minutes where you guys can touch base about schedule, what's coming up, share a glass of wine or beer, watch a show together, discuss your days. Just a time to touch base and basically reconnect. I also love this. Praise and recognize each family member for what they contribute. Let them know, everybody know, that you're important to our family because, and you point out what beautiful value and what beautiful strength and just beautiful things that they bring to the family. Praise your children 2 times a day, minimally. Point out what they've done well. Doesn't matter what it is. Thank you for putting your shoes in the closet. Thank you for hanging up your coat. Thank you for taking your dish to the sink, rather. These little things, when you point them out to your children, are very, very valuable. And it's very similar to us. And if you want to know how it feels, liken yourself to, and you might not need to liken yourself. If you're an employee and you're working somewhere, and you do things and someone points it out to you, you feel like I'm being noticed. It feels good. It's very reinforcing. Use that same model in your home. We all like to be recognized for what we do, as big or as small as it is. We all love it. So make sure to do it regularly in your home too. As a parent, I really encourage you to know your limits. When you've had enough, take a time out. Develop a signal with your spouse or your partner so that you know when to switch. If things are really rough with your child and your child is having a meltdown and you are at your end because you're sick or you haven't slept well or you're worrying about something yourself, create that signal. Go take a time out. You're not getting a prize or a tiara or a crown at the end of the process. Take a break and walk away, regain your strength, leave the house if you need to, and then come back. Another thing is building downtime into your family schedule. I personally love the summer. I love the amount of light in the summer, which we're not seeing right now. About 4 or 5 o'clock, it's now dark, and it's very, very sad for me. I love the barefootness. I love playing in the water. I love just the fact that we're not running around to activities and we don't have homework. So in the evenings after dinner, we tend to have more time to play. And when the fall comes and we went back to school, we really lost it, and I miss it. So I had prepared a blog, 3 ways to take a piece of summer into the school year. I prepared it for Different Dreams blog. The person there who owns and runs that blog is Jolene Philo. She's wonderful, and she really liked the blog because I talk about how we have lost building time into our schedule like we did a long time ago of just having quiet time, having downtime, and coming down from the day. A lot of times we go basically, we run, and then we sit, it's time to go to bed, but we haven't given our body and our brain a chance to quiet down, and we're not meant to do that. We can't go from running to sleeping. And so people wonder, why am I not sleeping so soundly? Because we're not giving our bodies and our brains time to decompress, get the noise out, process your day, do something calming for your body. I encourage families to begin to shut the house down. Choose your time and shut the house down, meaning lower the blinds, turn off lights, dim the lights, speak quieter, and everyone can take an hour to do something quiet. I'd like to avoid screens during that time, but reading, writing, coloring, drawing, working on a puzzle, where you're basically not processing any more stimulation or information from the environment. You're just letting your body and your brain to begin to quiet down, which is a skill we really have lost. So when is it time to seek professional help? Because sometimes you can't do it on your own, and it's okay. The things that I'll say to parents who are not necessarily in the office, but other parents that I come in contact with, they'll say to me, I think I need to talk to someone. And these are usually the signs that I see. I'm tired. I'm tired all day, but I can't sleep. I can't maintain the roles in my life, whether it's an employee or feel like I'm having a hard time being the primary caretaker, the primary breadwinner, or I can't do my job at work, and my work is suffering. Having poor focus and attention because you're so engrossed with what's going on with my child, or I'm worried about tomorrow, I'm worried about this upcoming test, or I'm worried about this upcoming intake at the school. Having a low mood every day for most of the day, and having low interest in friendships. It's okay if you can't do this on your own. It's okay for you to seek help and to process your experiences, because it's not always about your child. You're part of a family system, and you are an equally important part of that system. And when any part of the system is down, the rest of it suffers. So if you think that you're going to suffer in silence, I assure you that no matter how good you think you are, it's being noticed. Because if you liken ourselves to a family unit where we're all holding hands, when one of us is weak and droopy, the others have to carry your strength. And some of them can't. And some of them don't know how to. But the system suffers. So if you think, again, that you're doing this quietly and no one notices, I assure you you're wrong. So if you need to take a break, if you need to do things differently, if you need to seek professional help, whether it's through a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or you need to go for chiropractic care, or seek a nutritionist to help you with your diet to boost your immune functioning and help you from the inside out. Whatever you think you need, a haircut, a pedicure, do it. So to summarize, we've discussed a lot, and I hope you found this to be beneficial and helpful in really validating your experience as a parent of a child with special needs. Your struggle is real. This journey is real, and you're not alone. So parenting a child with special needs can be very difficult. It can be very rewarding. Also, let's not forget that part, but it is difficult. A parent can be traumatized and suffer from PTSD, and this is not just a diagnosis that's known for people who've been in the military. There are coping tools that you can use on a daily basis. You can mix and match and use them to make sure that you are giving yourself time, you're giving time to yourself with your spouse, and you're giving time with other children if you have other children in the home. You can find that family life balance, and it's okay to seek professional help. I want to, this is the end of our presentation at this time, and as we come to an end, I'm eager to hear your questions. My contact information is below, should you wish to work together. For those of you who are not in New Jersey, I do offer Skype and FaceTime as an option. So I'm, again, very, very thankful to have been here today and to be able to speak to a topic that is, as I said, very near and dear to my heart, and one that I see and work with very, very regularly, professionally and personally. So thank you again for your time and for listening to this presentation, and I'm very eager to hear your questions.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Liz. Your level of understanding with this topic is clearly evident, and I'm sure everyone on the webinar appreciates your not only your expertise, but also your personal experience in this. So thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
And I would now like to answer some questions that have come up. In the meantime, I would like to point everyone to the next slide, which is also a list of resources available to you as a family or a parent with special needs. We have a Facebook page, we have an online support group, and we have a blog which has a lot of articles written by parents that are going through these experiences. So I want you to definitely write those down and take a look at those. So our first question involves siblings. So having children of differing needs in one family can be difficult. How do you think that one sibling can get through this type of an experience and be okay with having a sibling that's special and beautiful and worthy of love too?
So it's not a simple journey for them either. Just as we've had this great long discussion about it. As the parent, you're constantly evolving and taking steps back and steps forward. Children come into this world and they want their needs to be met, and so their understanding is going to be limited as they're younger. And over time, they will understand, and your child with special needs will be a part of your norm. So in my home, my daughter is very anxious and she's got several needs. But we know that transitions are hard, and she wants to do things, and so her brother knows, her older brother, she has an older brother and a younger brother, and he just knows that he'll coach her, and when he coaches her, she has a very positive response to him. He has a very positive feeling of being able to have helped her. So I'm not suggesting, and I hope that that message didn't come through, that our siblings can help each other, and that we can use our different strengths to help the other person's weaknesses. So my daughter does have weaknesses, but she also has a lot of strengths, and so I make it a point to point that out to her. She, for example, is our finder, and we tell her that you're a finder. When things get lost, she finds them. She has this uncanny ability to find things, whereas my older son, it'll be sitting in front of him and he can't find it. So he'll say to her, "Can you help me find?" And she will help him, and therefore she feels good. So it is a back and forth that goes on in the sibling relationship, and I do encourage everyone to know what their strengths and weaknesses are, to talk about it, and to let them help each other. So if, for example, you have a child who doesn't want to take their medication from X person, but they'll take it from a sibling, then let them do that. But that's not their sole responsibility. It's not like, oh, well, Jimmy can do this, so it's not Jimmy has to do it every night. But to allow that back and forthness is wonderful, and to be able to recognize that everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. And the other beautiful thing about families is, you know, good or bad, when there is a family, I'm going to call it an anomaly because I can't think of a better word right now, we accept it, right? How many times have you heard, oh, that's just how Uncle John is? That's how he is at family parties. That's you know, he sits in another room quietly and then comes back and joins us, and we just come to accept things and they become our norm. So families are very embracing and very accepting. So I think to answer the bigger question is it will come over time, but it's going to be an evolution process, and we really use those strengths and weaknesses of each child to help each other. So it's not just about that child with special needs.
Okay, good. That was a very comprehensive answer. I appreciate that. What about treatment for PTSD of parents? Do you recommend that they go through specific treatment for PTSD or even take antidepressants?
I think the determining factor for me to that kind of question is, are you able to function? If you can't function and you need medication, take it. It's there, it's available. You start with a low dose, you take it for as long as you need, and when you're ready, you come off of it. If you need it for longer, take it. Are there specific therapies? There are a lot of different therapies. I like cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. But there's also other therapies out there. There's EMDR. I couldn't tell you exactly what those letters stand for right now, but I know that it's used very powerfully with people who have suffered trauma. It has been found effective. I'm not promoting it one way or another. But if you're saying you're hurting, you need help, you are having a hard time functioning, absolutely seek that therapy. Get help. Take the medication if you need to for a period of time. There's no weakness in that. You know, I think as parents, sometimes parents of special needs especially, we have very, very high and unrealistic expectations of ourselves that I should be able to do this. This is the hand I was dealt. You know, God only gives people things that they can handle, and I should be able to handle this. Sometimes we can't, and it's okay. You know, just on a personal level, I'm a psychologist. This is what I do all day, and yet there's a ton of things I didn't notice with my own child, and I know what to do, but I don't always do it because we have an emotional connection, and so I don't see clearly. And so I've gone through that roller coaster of emotion of how is it that I didn't see this? This is what I do all day. You know, how did I miss that? How is it that I am just as impatient as everybody else? You know, and why am I putting that unrealistic standard? I'm a parent first. I'm human. And at the end of the day, I can also be tired, and you can also be tired, and it's okay. You know, let's put those expectations to the side. They're really not serving any purpose. They don't give us clarity. They don't give us action plans. They don't give us anything. So put them away. Indulge in a glass of wine if you need to, and tell yourself, I'm okay. It's okay, and I don't know today, but maybe I'll know tomorrow.
Thank you. Do you have any recommendations specifically for single parents that maybe have a little bit less support than married parents?
And that's a tough one. I think for single parents, it's very tough. You know, if the other parent is involved and is around, I would say get them involved as much as possible in the daily functioning of your family and your child. For the family where the spouse is no longer present, I would say create a network with other parents. If you have family members, extended family members, engage them, let them help you. People usually offer not because they're just offering, it's because they mean it, so take them up on it. But I know with parenting a child with special needs, the belief is no one else can do this but me, and that's not truth. And it's not possible for you just to do it. Are there other ways for it to be done? Yes. Are they ideal? Maybe not, but oh well. It builds our children's resilience when someone else comes in and does it another way. It's kind of like you have to think about it as, here's your goal, which is your child to be happy and well adjusted. and there's going to be different paths to it. And my path is not the only way to get there. There's going to be multiple paths. And so grandma might have a way, the babysitter might have a way, occupational therapist might have a way, whatever it is, we're all going to achieve the same goal, but every path doesn't have to look exactly the same. So I would say engage as much as you can other people to come and help, find support groups, and find other parents who are willing to say, bring me your child, go out to dinner, and then we will do the same. We'll bring you our child, and we'll go out to dinner. And you time limit it for 2-3 hours, whatever is agreeable. And that's how you manage to get out. You know, in the case that a sitter is not available, or hiring a sitter all the time is not feasible. There's also, as I said, DDD, the Division of Developmental Disabilities, which does offer respite care. I believe it's 10 hours per month. So definitely use that as a resource as well.
That was the Division of Developmental Disabilities?
Correct.
Okay. Someone did ask a question about that. Other thing that often comes up with special needs parents is building and maintaining friendships kind of outside of that community with their friends that have typical children. How do you recommend getting around that and kind of maintaining your position in society and the community that is more typical?
So I'm a big proponent of get out to the community and do things with the community and with other families, even when it's not families who have children with special needs. I don't know if I'm just biased, but I know in our community we have kids of all varying abilities, and we know that, and parents, you know, maintain also their own boundaries, so they know that they can come over and hang out with us for 2 or 3 hours, and that's, you know, when their child is going to reach their max, and then they leave. So I would say absolutely set up those friendships, and you know, if you need to bring your own food for your child because of dietary restrictions, bring it. If it has to be a time-limited activity outside of the home, or it's more comfortable to come to the home, I say absolutely do it. It doesn't have to be every day. You do it as frequently as you would like, but I would maintain those relationships. It's healthy for all children to see each other, and children don't give it that label special needs. We give it to that label as you know, as we get older, so we understand what we're talking about. It kind of becomes like our code word. But children just say, you know, Samantha has a hard time with loud sound, or Jimmy needs to take medicine before he eats. You know, it is what it is. And as I said, kids can, especially the more exposure children have to each other with their strengths and you know, this person has a nut allergy, or this one can't eat gluten, or this one needs to take an insulin shot, or whatever the case may be. Kids it just becomes a part of their norm. So I would say don't isolate, because you're depriving yourself, your children, and the children of the community of interacting with each other and realizing we're not the same. We're just not the same, and we don't need to be.
Okay, thank you. How about, can you describe particular symptoms that siblings of special needs children might have if they're feeling overwhelmed or left out or isolated, or if they're having any stress or trauma related to the family?
I think I tend to see the two extremes. So I see the one extreme where they isolate and withdraw and become very tearful, and little things just kind of trigger them. They get very easily frustrated. They don't look happy. So you have that one end where they isolate and withdraw, or you have the end where there's a lot of explosions and meltdowns. You know, I can't get my sock on right, and you're like, what? You're getting this upset over a sock, and that should be a sign always that it's clearly not about the sock. It's about feeling frustrated, and now the sock not fitting the right way is just throwing that child over the edge. So I think you see it, you know, if grades are slipping at school, if teachers are giving you feedback, hasn't really been playing with the kids as much, complaining of a stomach ache and going to the nurse more often, or spending more time in the bathroom. I think those are the kinds of signs that I would begin to worry.
It sounds like a sibling could experience this type of PTSD as well.
Oh, yes, of course. Absolutely. Especially if, let's say a sibling observes another sibling having an epileptic seizure and they have no clue what that means, and then the ambulance rushes and they take them to the hospital. That can be very traumatizing. And they need to process that as well. So it's not just now dealing with the medical recourse of a post-epileptic seizure, but now you also have to process, what did you see? Do you have any questions, and what are you worried about? And they maybe I'm afraid that my sister is going to have, this is going to happen to her again. And okay, so let's, and then you give them as much information depending on their age, as much as they can really handle. So here's some signs to look for when your sister is going to have a seizure. And this is what you do. So that empowers children as well. And that would be the instruction you would give to anybody in their class, their teacher, the school nurse, is that if you see Samantha having a seizure, you're going to, guide her to the ground, put her on her side, and then tell an adult, holler for an adult. So it empowers them too, if they know what to do. And their feelings are, let them process it. You will see anxiety, you may see sleeplessness or just general fear, not wanting to leave the house, not wanting to leave the sibling. But again, processing it, going to see a therapist, letting them know it's okay to feel this way.
So it sounds like the sibling sometimes ends up being a caregiver as well. Do you want to quickly advance to the next slide, Dr. Liz? Before we go to the next question, I just want everyone to get a chance to enter our caregiver contest based on the experiences that parents or siblings have, or anyone that's caring for someone with special needs. What advice would you give that fellow caregiver? And then you could submit your entry of 150 words or more to shieldhealthcare.com/caring before January 31st. This is a great opportunity for people to kind of put their feelings and their experiences into words and to help others as well. And then there is a $500 prize for the winner of the contest. So that's some incentive.
That's great.
You reminded me of caregiving there, so I wanted to bring that up. And you also mentioned seizures or kind of an acute stress event. Another question that came up is what to do kind of in the moment if a stressful event happens like a seizure. How do you deal with the stress and trauma of that acute event right then and there?
For the sibling?
For the sibling or even for the parent.
Helping them to process what they saw, what their fears are, and answering questions. If there's a medical physician who is there and can answer these questions, but again, just letting them process. What did you see? What were you thinking? Let's create a plan of action. One thing I know that helps me is when I'm afraid of a potential situation happening, is I feel better when I know what I can do should it happen, so I don't feel so out of control. So I know if, my daughter did suffer from seizures for a period of time. And so it's what I told my son. My other little son at the time was very young. He was an infant. But I told him I knew what to do. I shared with her teachers. I shared with the nurse. I shared with when she was taking a gymnastics class. I let everybody know this is our plan of action. And it made me feel good to know that if something happens, then not only do I know what to do, but everyone else around me knows what to do, so that it's not causing her harm, and it's not also making me now go find someone who has to tell me what to do, which could take more time. So I know for children, I really like to empower them with action plans. What's our action plan? And, for a child, for example, who has a severe food allergies, there's a young little boy in our practice now who has so many food allergies, and his concern is legit, but we came up with an action plan of what if you do have an allergic reaction? What do we do? And that has helped him. And we put it in writing, and, he can carry it around laminated to comfort him. But for the parent, the sibling, I would say process what happened and come up with an action plan so that if you're in the similar situation again in the future, you know what to do.
Okay, thank you. And I can probably take a couple more questions. If your question didn't get answered, we will email you the answer. We will get an answer from Dr. Liz and send an email to you so you have that. Are you seeing any changes, Dr. Liz, in school management of special needs children in this current regulatory environment?
Oh, so it goes back and forth, right? I think there's a greater awareness of children with special needs and the different variety of it. So we have child study teams, we have Department of Special Education. I know that's all the terminology for here in New Jersey. I'm sure it varies a little bit across each state. Um, so children can have different plans, a 504 plan, an IEP. There's different programs and supports available. Unfortunately, schools aren't always very forthcoming in what they can do until parents ask. And I hate to say that because I feel badly saying that towards the schools. I've worked in the schools. I understand that there's a structure and so forth, and there's budgetary limitations. But having been a school psychologist, I am very well versed with the special education law here in New Jersey, and I go to meetings with parents so that I can help them to ask for what their child needs. So what I found is that when you ask for things by name, you can get them. There are lots of supports available. Public schools don't have as much flexibility as private schools. Private schools can be more generous in their options of support, whereas a public school, they really do their best, and when they get to the end of the different supports that they can provide, they then transition children to special needs schools. If everybody's in agreement, it's not always that smooth. It's not always a fight either. So there are different options in the New Jersey schools, but it's going to require documentation from physicians, from medical professionals. When you need a medical diagnosis, it's going to take reports from psychologists. It's going to take going in, knowing the law, and asking for things by name. And that's how parents really get the most support for their children.
Thank you, Dr. Liz. And then I would add to that we did a webinar in the past about special education and advocating for your child. And since a lot of people are asking about the recording, you can go to shieldhealthcare.com/community or shieldhealthcare.com/grow. And there you would find a listing of our articles as well as past recorded webinars, including the one about special education and advocating for your child, where it talks about what are the things that you need to know, how do you deal, what are the specific regulations and laws and issues that parents need to be aware of so that they can be truly successful in advocating for their child. And then lastly, people are looking for different resources, support groups. There are places like, I think you mentioned care.com, Dr. Liz, or there's the National Respite Association as well. Also on shieldhealthcare.com/grow, we do have a list of helpful links and resources so that you can find websites or phone numbers of organizations that are helpful for families with special needs.
Excellent. I know also local hospitals tend to run a lot of support groups. So that's another option too.
Definitely, that's true. So with that, I think any remaining questions we will answer by email, but I wanted to thank you for your time and your excellent presentation and answering all of those questions. And I want to thank everyone for attending the webinar. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you.